Okay, Jeff, so talk to us about
Well,
the beginning stages, actually, right? Where you
Yeah.
started with the company. I made an introduction that
Okay.
had to do with what you already have on your website, which is the beginning, how you started this journey, what led you to transition into home audio, and I think there will be a beautiful story to tell
Well,
the audience.
we'll go back to the earlier beginnings, which, let's see, where shall we start? Let's start back when I was in high school. I started to build some amplifiers when transistors became popular and tubes were starting on their decline. I grew up in Phoenix, and at that time, Motorola was the big name in solid state, and they were actually building some of their first power transistors, including that metal diamond-shaped package that everybody sees that they used to manufacture. They still manufacture, but it isn't used so much. And that was actually created in Phoenix, Arizona, in my backyard. Through social contacts, I had new engineers at Motorola and technicians, and so I'd get parts out the back door, and we'd start building stuff. So that was part of what happened. I was always interested in tape recorders. I mean, at that time, you know, you had stereos, you had photography, you had sports. You didn't have video games and all this other stuff, those distractions you have today, or internet or anything. So in the to keep this not too crazy long, in the 70s, I started working in broadcast. That was my first big job. I had done hi-fi service earlier, but that was for a short time. In the 70s, I started doing working in broadcast, designing electronics for broadcast. Over here, I will show you the biggest creation we did. This was designed in the 1970s, and this is what it looks like. It is a cartridge tape recorder. And up till about the mid-1990s, this is what you would hear on the air if you're listening to the radio.
Really?
And
This?
that's it. Yep.
So they would change these tapes?
Yep. You'd have a rack of these and maybe 6 players. And so the DJ would set these up.
Wow.
It's an endless loop cartridge. So the tape comes here, goes past the head, past the pinch roller, comes back out here, goes back in, and then it comes back out around. So it just keeps going and going and going.
Wow.
It's really grody, but that's what we had. We didn't have any digital in those days. You know, it wasn't mature enough.
Right. Does
So
this work or no?
It hasn't been on in many years, so
Okay.
it would need to be gone through.
Tomcat is the brand.
Tomcat. This was actually, that's the model number. The company was Pacific Recorders and Engineering in San Diego, and we did turnkey systems, furniture, tape recorders, mixing boards, everything up to the transmitter. So this is in San Diego. So you could stick that in, and it was the first time we started polishing stainless steel.
Wow.
So it was easy to put in.
Wow.
It was the first machine that actually had a microprocessor for a cart machine. Before that, it was relay logic. Wow. So the competitors were really grody. I could tell you a lot about it, but it doesn't matter. So through working with Pacific Recorders in the late 70s, this is where I got to meet Dean Jensen, who is known for Jensen transformers.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Mr. Jensen passed away in 1989, but he was one of my first mentors and taught me many, many things about electronics. So that's the story on this.
Okay.
We had, Dean and I had a lot of late night discussions, and we decided that there was an idea for doing an amplifier that had multiple stages. And so because of that conversation with them, I built some prototypes, and we put those into NBC television in Burbank in 1984 when they transitioned from mono to stereo. So we had 100 pieces of amplifier that went into there. The best thing about Dean was that he had contacts all over Hollywood and Southern California especially, but really all over the United States, because he would go in and fix things. If they had a problem in the studio, a hum or a buzz or something, he would go in and fix it. And so he got a reputation. And so he knew all the people who were working pros who actually would listen for a living. So when I said, I've got this prototype, I wanted somebody to listen to it, he could get people to listen to it. I couldn't.
Right.
So he had all the contacts, yeah. And so we'd give prototypes to people and they wouldn't give them back. So we knew he had something.
Oh, interesting. Ah, okay.
This is the same thing as Tomcat. It's the one that would actually record the cartridges. So
Wow.
that's what.
And that was released what year?
1980. Yeah, this system. It was a system that was released in 1980.
1980,
Yeah.
and we are.
Yeah,
So this
I
is
know.
essentially your early beginnings. This is when you really started to.
This is when I started really learning a lot about electronics.
Right.
Not only Dane Jensen, but other people around the Hollywood circle, Southern California, who were great, who had a lot of good things to contribute. That's where all the interesting stuff was happening in audio, was there. Okay. You've seen the 2000 series products out in the factory. This creature up here, late 1990s, this is actually the start of the big power amps.
That was your early beginning. Is that?
Yes.
Should I say your rough draft? That's when you were.
Well, it's how you work out ideas. So you have ideas,
Right.
and then you have to build them and see if they work. So that was one half of a monoblock. So it was one polarity of a monoblock, and we worked out how to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we keep it up there for, that's like 25 years old, and no, it won't.
And did you leave that idea as is, or did you end up making it better, improving it until it became a certain amplifier for you?
Well, from there, we built the first units probably about 1997, something like that. The first 2,000 power amps, 2050 and 2060. I mean, you do so much with that, and then you go make a PC board and you build a chassis and power supply and all. So that was just one of the things that, that's what you had to do in those days.
So then basically the story goes, this is your start, although to your earlier point, you already had been involved with some audio.
Right.
This is what, when you begin to have conversations with your friend and you start to venture into all of this, leads to that.
Tomcat was the first commercial product that I designed, albeit for Pacific Recorders. Yeah. So that was the first time I had to actually go through and get something that would go into production and make multiples of and sell. Quite the learning experience.
Here's a question I have for you. It's actually something that, right off the top of my head, why didn't you continue with broadcast equipment? Because I'm assuming they're still using, obviously, new generations of this.
No, they don't use this. Everything's gone digital now in radio, in broadcast. It's all changed. Yeah.
Got it.
I wanted to do my own thing. I wasn't sure what it was, so
Okay.
I was able to take what I had from this and start something else, start the amplifiers. And I wanted to move to Colorado because I skied then. I don't ski anymore. So there were a lot of reasons, but...
So the neutrality is something that I read on your website as far as one of the most attractive things about the recording equipment that you were making is that neutrality that recording engineers were attracted to, drawn to your designs.
Yeah, I mean, before we did the first amplifiers for broadcast, it was, we really want to be in broadcast, but other things. There really was not very good equipment out there for listening. And you're having people sit in front of speakers and listen all day, and you have to put up with this distortion. So when we gave them something that was clear, it was a big hit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what, and then next thing you know, here you are building.
Well, not 40 years later.
350. Yeah, very much so.
We're talking about a lot of years. I have over 40 years experience. Pushing back into even earlier would be 50 years. So I bring the knowledge of what I have into high performance audio.
And that is for sure high performance. It is. Okay. This is such an interesting story to share with my viewers.
Yeah, okay.
And I hope you guys have enjoyed. Anything else you want to share with us from here before?
In here, no, not especially. We can go into the sound room and we'll talk about more of the technical in there. Be better.
Sounds good. Follow those guys to the sound room.